With all eyes on Russia, Ukraine, and America's response, internet experts keep sounding off. They're insisting we need to help Ukraine, lamenting that the Russians are being bad and expressing support for democratic Ukraine. But in reality, we are not the US government, and Russians and Ukrainians aren't their governments either. The people actually running these governments and spurring this conflict are flagrant authoritarians. Quote, democratic Ukraine is the second most corrupt government in Europe after Russia and has a thriving neo-Nazi movement permeating the government. The US government is a war crime committing imperial corporate oligarchy that stages coups, helped those Ukrainian white supremacists gain traction, and tried to meddle in Ukraine's democracy. And the Russian regime is a historically imperialist human rights violator run by an ex-KGB thug. But the people who control these governments and associated ruling organizations are too cowardly and selfish to fight for territory, resources, and power themselves. Instead, they appeal to nationalism and national interest, often lying about intelligence and evidence to get other people's children to fight for the state, forcing them into it or capitalizing on their national identity. Thanks to propaganda, they believe their government and country are one and the same, so they literally become the government as soldiers. All this while armchair warriors bravely call for these governments to wage war because they also falsely believe they are the government. But it's not the millions of people of Ukraine, Russia, and the United States or anywhere else. It's the governments that claim to rule over them, as well as the individuals who are willing to commit violence for these governments. We do not wage wars or make policies, many of which are blatantly oppressive and anti-democratic. Governments do so in our name. Did you vote to adopt the Constitution? Did you impose and enforce segregation? Did you drop nukes, napalm, or drone bombs? Do you throw people in cages for possessing plants or imprison whistleblowers? Do you choose to enrich and empower evil corporations? This false belief leads you to ignore or be apathetic toward people killed, starved, and brutalized because of what their government or certain factions allegedly did, and to be selectively outraged about violence and injustice, not out of principle, but because you're told to care. Real people do suffer because of these authoritarians' power, control, and money games, and to be sure, some real people will defend themselves against Putin's aggression, but we are not the hypocritical governments that claim authority. And your indoctrinated belief that we are fuels these kinds of international conflicts, propping up these authoritarians because you bought their propaganda that they represent you. Disagree? Okay. Are you gonna go fight in Ukraine?